The stars glittered like diamonds against the black void of space as the UES Defiant cruised along the edge of the Orion Arm. Captain Laura Reed stood at the bridge's main viewport, her hands clasped behind her back. She was tall, with short brown hair that barely touched her collar, and carried herself with the confidence of someone who had earned her position through merit rather than politics. "Captain, we're picking up strange energy readings," said Lieutenant Tom Hayes from his station. His fingers moved quickly across the glowing display. "It's like nothing we've seen before." "Show me," Laura ordered, turning to face the main screen. The display lit up with a pattern of waves that pulsed in an odd rhythm. Before Laura could study them further, 3 massive ships appeared out of nowhere. They were silver and smooth, shaped like arrowheads, and each one was at least twice the size of the Defiant. "Battle stations," Laura commanded calmly. "But do not power weapons. Let's not start a war today." Red warning lights flashed throughout the ship as crew members rushed to their posts. A message came through their communication system. The voice spoke perfect English, which made Laura's eyebrows rise in surprise. "Primitive vessel, you have entered Galactic Council space. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in immediate destruction." Laura exchanged looks with Hayes before pressing the communication button. "This is Captain Laura Reed of the United Earth ship Defiant. We are on a peaceful exploration mission, and we're unaware of any territorial boundaries. We're happy to discuss this situation diplomatically." The alien voice laughed. It wasn't a friendly sound. "Diplomacy is for equals, human. Your species is barely out of its gravity well. You will submit to inspection and classification. The Council will determine your species' place in the proper order." While the conversation continued, Hayes whispered to Laura, "Captain, I'm picking up some interesting data. Their communications aren't as secure as they think. I'm downloading their database. There's something very wrong here." Laura kept the alien ships talking while Hayes worked. The young lieutenant's face grew darker with each passing minute. "Captain," he said finally, his voice tight with anger, "these council members, they're not protectors. They're conquerors. They find developing species, classify them as primitive, and then either enslave them or force them to pay heavy tributes. They've done this to at least 30 different species in the last 1,000 years." Laura's jaw tightened. "Send that data to Earth immediately. Encrypted channel." "Already done," Hayes replied. The alien voice was getting impatient. "Your time for submission has ended. Prepare to be boarded." Laura straightened her uniform. "I'm afraid that won't be possible. We do not submit to boarding from unknown powers, especially those with a history of enslaving others." There was a moment of silence. Then, "How dare you access our systems? Your primitive species will pay for this insult." The alien ships began to move, their weapons charging with a visible green glow. Laura smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Lieutenant Hayes, show them what a primitive species can do." Hayes pressed a series of commands. The Defiant's experimental quantum shield snapped into place, technology the Council had never seen before. At the same time, their electronic countermeasures went to work, scrambling the alien targeting systems. "Fire a warning shot," Laura ordered. "Let's show them we're not as helpless as they think." A bright blue beam shot from the Defiant, passing between 2 of the alien ships. The energy readings were far beyond what the Council's sensors said should be possible from such a small vessel. "Plot us a course out of here," Laura commanded. "But first, let's leave them something to remember us by." Hayes deployed a small swarm of electronic warfare drones, tiny, nearly invisible machines that attached themselves to the alien ship's hulls. They would continue downloading data and transmitting it back to Earth long after the Defiant was gone. "Course plotted, Captain," Hayes reported. "Our new drive is ready." Laura opened the ship-wide comm. "All hands, prepare for quantum jump." The alien ships launched their first attack, green energy beams slicing through space where the Defiant had been a second before. But Laura's ship was already gone, jumping through space in a way the Council had never seen. As they sped toward Earth, Laura looked at the data Hayes had collected. "Send this to every colony and outpost we have," she ordered. "The Council needs to learn something important about humanity." "What's that, Captain?" Hayes asked. "We don't submit to bullies," Laura said firmly. "And we're not as primitive as they think." The Defiant raced home, carrying a warning of the storm to come, and proof that humanity's first contact with galactic civilization would not be peaceful. But they also carried something else: hope, because in their brief encounter, they had already proven that human technology could match and even exceed that of the Council. The galaxy was about to learn that picking a fight with Earth was a very, very big mistake. Admiral Robert West stood in the dimly lit war room beneath the Rocky Mountains. His weathered face reflected off multiple screens showing the data from the UES Defiance encounter. Around the large table, Earth's top military leaders sat in tense silence. "Ladies and gentlemen," West began, his deep voice steady, "what you're seeing is proof that we are not alone in the galaxy, and our neighbors are not friendly." Lieutenant Emma Cooper stepped forward. She was young for her position, but her bright mind had earned her place here. Her fingers moved across the main display, bringing up images of the Council's ships. "The data Captain Reed brought back shows something interesting," Emma said. "The Council's technology isn't more advanced than ours. It's just different. In fact, our quantum shields and AI systems are far ahead of theirs." "How is that possible?" asked one of the generals. "They've been in space for thousands of years." Emma smiled. "Because they stopped innovating. The Council got comfortable. They haven't had real competition in centuries. Meanwhile, we humans never stopped pushing forward." West nodded and pressed a button. The floor-to-ceiling screen changed to show a massive underground facility on Mars. "This is why we never dismantled our warship production facilities," he said. "Some called us paranoid for keeping them ready. Now we know we were right." The screen showed huge assembly lines starting to move. Robots began working on half-finished ships. Lights flickered on in facilities that had been quiet for 50 years. "But that's not all," West continued. He looked at each person in the room. "It's time to reveal Project Jupiter." Emma gasped. She had heard whispers about Project Jupiter, but most thought it was just a rumor. The screen changed again. This time, it showed massive ships hidden within Jupiter's storms. They were sleek, dark, and deadly, humanity's secret fleet. "We built them in secret," West explained, using the storms as cover. 20 ships, each more advanced than anything the Council has. And they're ready to fly. "But the real surprise is this," Emma added, bringing up new data. "The Council thinks they can just walk over us because they believe we're primitive. Their entire society is built on the idea that younger species are inferior. This attitude is their weakness." She showed clips from the Council's own database. "They have no concept of rapid advancement. Their technology improves slowly by small steps. They can't imagine a species developing as fast as we have." "Which brings us to the UES Prometheus," West said. The screen showed their newest ship. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Shaped like a sword, its black hull seemed to swallow light. "The Prometheus carries our latest tech," Emma explained. "Quantum shields that can shrug off their strongest weapons. AI systems that can outthink their best commanders. And weapons they've never seen before." "But we're not just preparing for war," West added. "Lieutenant Cooper, show them what else we found in the Council's data." Emma brought up maps showing other alien species under Council control. "They've enslaved dozens of races. Many of these species have been fighting back, but separately. They need a leader. They need hope. And we're going to give them that hope," West said firmly. "But first, we need to show the Council exactly what they're dealing with." He stood straighter. "As we speak, Captain Reed is heading back out. Not to run this time, but to fight. The Defiant will lead a small fleet to defend our outer colonies. The Council thinks they can bully us. They're about to learn how wrong they are." Emma brought up one final image, Earth's combined fleet gathering near Mars. Old ships and new ships, large and small, all preparing for what was coming. "We've spent 50 years preparing for a threat we didn't know existed," West said. "Now we know. And we're ready." The room was quiet for a moment. Then one of the admirals spoke up. "How long until they attack?" "Based on their fleet movements," Emma answered. "Less than a week. They're gathering ships for what they think will be an easy conquest." West smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. "Then let's give them a proper welcome. Start warming up the Jupiter fleet, launch the Prometheus, and send word to every colony and ship we have. Earth stands ready." As the leaders filed out to prepare their forces, Emma stayed behind looking at the fleet gathering near Mars. West walked up beside her. "Scared?" he asked quietly. Emma shook her head. "No, sir. For the first time since the Defiance encounter, I'm excited. The Council thinks they know what humanity is capable of." She turned to face him. "They have no idea what's coming." West nodded. "No, they don't. And that's exactly how we want it." Lieutenant Jack Patterson stood at the Defense Control Center of New Eden Colony, watching the sky through the dome's clear walls. New Eden was humanity's largest outer colony, home to 5 million people who had built their lives on this distant world. "Sir, multiple ships just appeared at the edge of our system," said Mary Turner, his best sensor operator. Her voice was calm, but her hands gripped her chair tightly. "They matched the Council ships from the Defiance report." Jack nodded, not surprised. They had been waiting for this. "How many?" 30 ships, sir. Much more than what Captain Reed encountered." Jack pressed a button on his command chair. "All civilians to shelter zones. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." The Council ships moved closer, their green weapons already glowing. A message boomed through their communication system. "Primitive colony, surrender now. Your defenses are nothing compared to the might of the Galactic Council. Submit, and your people will be spared." Jack looked at the faces of his crew. They weren't afraid. They were ready. "Send them our reply," he ordered. Mary typed a few commands. On all channels, the colony's speakers played a simple sound: human laughter. The Council ships paused, confused by this response. Then they attacked. Green energy beams shot toward the colony. The Council expected to see panic, to see the primitive humans running in fear. Instead, they saw something very different. The colony's shield snapped into place, but it wasn't like any shield the Council had seen before. It was black as night, seeming to eat the light of their weapons. "Quantum shields holding at 100%, Mary reported with a smile. "Their weapons aren't even scratching the paint." Jack leaned forward. "Now it's our turn. Show them what a primitive colony can do." Hidden doors opened in the ground around the colony. Hundreds of small drones rose into the air, each one carrying weapons that the Council had never seen before. "Launch the swarm," Jack ordered. The drones moved like a flock of birds, flowing through space in patterns that confused the Council's targeting systems. Their small size made them hard to hit, and their quantum shields made them hard to damage. "Sir, they're launching fighters," Mary reported. "Perfect," Jack said. Active defense grid. Posts around the colony lit up. They created a web of energy that the Council ships couldn't see or detect. As their fighters entered the grid's range, they simply stopped working. Their engines died, their weapons went dark, and they drifted helplessly in space. The Council commanders watched in shock as their first wave of fighters became useless chunks of metal. "Deploy the big guns," Jack ordered. Large cannons rose from the colony's surface. They didn't fire energy beams or missiles. Instead, they fired gravity itself. Concentrated beams of twisted spacetime reached out and grabbed the Council ships. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The Council ships tried to run, but it was too late. The gravity beams caught them and crushed them like empty cans. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries were destroyed in minutes by weapons they didn't understand. "Sir," Mary called out, "they're sending a distress signal, calling for reinforcements." Jack smiled. "Good. Let them come. Let them see what happens when they threaten a human colony." The remaining council ships retreated, leaving their dead fighters floating in space. The entire battle had lasted less than an hour. Jack opened a channel to Earth Command. Defense Control to Command. First wave repelled. Colony defenses worked perfectly. 0 casualties on our side. Admiral West's voice came back clear and strong. "Well done, Lieutenant. How did our new toys work?" "Better than expected, sir. The Council didn't know what hit them. Their shields were useless against our gravity weapons, and their fighters couldn't handle our defense grid." "Excellent. Expect more company soon. The Council won't take this defeat lightly." Jack looked at his crew, saw their proud faces. "Let them come, sir. New Eden will be ready." After signing off, Jack walked to the window. The Council ships were now just dots of light, running away as fast as they could. "Send word to the other colonies," he told Mary. "Tell them what happened here. The Council needs to learn that humanity's colonies aren't easy targets." As cleanup drones began collecting the dead Council fighters, Jack thought about how the mighty Council must feel right now. They had expected an easy victory over a primitive species. Instead, they had found that the humans they looked down on had teeth, sharp ones. And this was just the beginning. Captain Alice Martinez stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, watching her crew prepare for humanity's first attack on Council space. The Prometheus was beautiful and deadly, a black arrow ready to pierce the Council's heart. "All systems ready, Captain," reported Bill Rogers, her first officer. He was a tall man with gray hair who had waited 20 years for this moment. "The fleet is in position." Alice looked at the ships around her. 10 vessels from the Jupiter fleet had joined the Prometheus for this mission. Each one was painted the same light-absorbing black, making them almost invisible against space. "Time to show the Council what happens when they pick a fight with Earth," Alice said. "Start the attack plan." The human fleet moved forward silently. Thanks to their new stealth systems, the Council's border sensors didn't see them coming. "First target in sight," Bill said. "It's their biggest military base in this sector." The base was massive. A giant ring in space with hundreds of ships docked around it. The Council thought it was safe, protected by their best shields and weapons. They were wrong. "Launch ghost drones," Alice ordered. Small black boxes left the human ships. These weren't normal drones. They were something new, something the Council had never seen. "Ghosts are in position," Bill reported. "Starting electronic attack." The ghost drones went to work. They didn't attack the base's shields or weapons. Instead, they attacked its computers. Council systems started shutting down. Their fancy weapons went dark. Their shields flickered and died. "They're blind and deaf," Bill said with a smile. "Our AI is running circles around their computers." Alice nodded. "Now for the fun part. All ships, attack pattern Delta." The human fleet split into 3 groups. They moved like dancers in space, each ship knowing exactly where to go. The Council ships tried to fight back, but they couldn't lock onto the black ships that seemed to swallow their sensor beams. "They're launching fighters," Bill reported. "Perfect," Alice said. "Deploy the nets." Energy nets appeared between the human ships. When Council fighters flew into them, they simply stopped working. Soon space was full of drifting fighter craft. "Main weapons ready," Bill said. "Target locked." Fire. The Prometheus's main gun wasn't like normal weapons. It fired a beam that bent space itself. When it hit the Council base, the massive station simply folded in on itself like paper. In seconds, their biggest base in this sector was gone. "Send the message," Alice ordered. Their communication officer, John Baker, sent out a broadcast on all frequencies. "Attention Council forces. This is humanity's first strike. There will be more. You started this war. We will finish it. Captain, Bill called out. Large council fleet approaching. Looks like they're heavy battleships. Alice smiled. This was what they had hoped for. Spring the trap. More human ships appeared behind the council fleet. They had been hiding in the shadow of a nearby moon. The council ships were now caught between two human fleets. All ships, fire at will, Alice ordered. Space lit up with weapons fire, but it was very one-sided. Council weapons bounced off human quantum shields while human gravity beams crushed council ships like toys. Enemy fleet is retreating, Bill reported after just 30 minutes of battle. They've lost half their ships. Let them go, Alice said. Let them run back and tell their leaders what happened here. The bridge crew cheered as the council ships fled. Their first attack had been perfect. No human casualties, while the council lost their biggest base and many ships. Send word to Earth, Alice ordered. Phase 1 complete. The council just learned they're not the strongest kids on the block anymore. As her crew celebrated, Alice looked at the stars. She knew this was just the beginning. The council had ruled the galaxy through fear for thousands of years, but they had never met humans before. Send a message to all human ships, she said. Tell them the Prometheus proved what we can do. The council thought we were weak. Now they know better. Bill walked up beside her. What do you think they'll do next, Captain? They'll come at us with everything they have, Alice said. And that's exactly what we want. Because every time they attack us, they learn a little more about how strong we really are. She turned to her crew. Get ready for round 2, everyone. The council's going to be angry after this, but angry enemies make mistakes, and we'll be ready when they do. The Prometheus and its fleet turned toward their next target. The council's long rule was coming to an end, and humanity was leading the charge to freedom. Colonel Frank Reynolds watched from the bridge of his ship as another alien vessel appeared from hyperspace. This one was different from the council ships, smaller, older, and clearly damaged. Its hull showed signs of many battles. They're hailing us, said Rita Brown, his communications officer. Same as the others. They say they want to talk. In the 3 weeks since humanity had started fighting back against the council, more and more alien ships had been showing up. They all had similar stories. Put them on screen, Frank ordered. The alien that appeared looked like a tall, blue-skinned human. His face showed both hope and fear. This is Captain Torek of the Free Traders. We heard that humans are fighting the council. Is this true? Frank nodded. It's true. The council tried to bully us. They learned that was a mistake. Torek's eyes widened. We saw the battle recordings. Your ships, they destroyed a council base like it was nothing. We've been fighting them for generations, but never managed to do that much damage. Times are changing, Frank said. The council's rule is ending, but we need allies, friends who know the galaxy better than we do. That's why we're here, Torek said. My people, and many others, want to join you. We've been slaves to the council for too long. Frank smiled. This was exactly what Earth had hoped for. Then let's talk. The scene shifted to a large meeting room on the human station Liberty. Frank sat at a round table with representatives from 12 different alien species. Each one had suffered under council rule. Captain Laura Reed, now promoted to admiral, stood at the front of the room. She had become a symbol of hope to these aliens after her first encounter with the council. We don't want to replace the council as rulers, Laura said. We want to help you all be free, to stand together as equals. An alien with green scales spoke up. But how can we fight? The council has most of our ships, our weapons. They control our worlds. Laura pressed a button, showing images of human shipyards. We can build ships. Lots of them. We can give you weapons that work against council defenses. But most importantly, we can teach you how we beat them. What do you want in return? Asked another alien. Partners, Frank answered. Allies who will stand with us. Not just to defeat the Council, but to build something better afterward. The aliens looked at each other. For many of them, this was the first time they had dared to hope for freedom. The Council keeps saying humans are primitive, Torek said. But you've done more damage in 3 weeks than we did in centuries. How? Laura smiled. Because the Council got lazy. They stopped inventing new things. They thought they knew everything. But humans never stop learning, never stop trying new ideas. She showed them pictures of the ghost drones, the quantum shields, the gravity weapons. We'll share all of this with you, teach you how to build and use them. And in return, Torek asked, help us free the other enslaved species, Frank said. Help us build a galaxy where everyone has a voice, where no one can bully others just because they're older or bigger. One by one, the aliens stood up. They had come here afraid, hoping for help. Now they stood tall, ready to fight. We're with you, Torek said. Others nodded. The Council has ruled through fear for too long. It's time for change. Frank looked at a big screen showing the galaxy. Already, dots of light showed where systems were rebelling against Council rule, where slaves were becoming free. Then let's make it official, Laura said. She held up a datapad. The Alliance Charter. Every member equal. Every voice heard. Sign it, and we start working together today. As the aliens signed, Frank thought about how quickly things had changed. Just weeks ago, humanity had been alone, facing a powerful enemy. Now they were building something new, something better. Send word to Earth, he told his communication officer. Tell them the Alliance is formed. Tell them hope is spreading across the galaxy. The Council's worst nightmare was coming true. Not only were they losing to humans, but their slaves were rising up. Their perfect order was falling apart. And this was just the beginning. Admiral Robert West stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, now his flagship. Around him, the largest fleet ever gathered in human history filled the view screens. But it wasn't just human ships anymore. Vessels from 20 different alien species flew alongside them, all heading for one target: the Council's capital system. Status report, West called out. All ships in position, reported Emma Cooper, now a full commander. Human ships up front, Alliance ships providing support. The Council's home fleet is exactly where our spies said it would be. West nodded. On another screen, he watched the Council's defensive line. They had gathered every ship they had left. Thousands of vessels protecting their capital world. It should have been an impossible target. But the Council didn't know what was coming. All ships, begin Operation Daybreak, West ordered. The human fleet moved first. The black ships seemed to disappear against space, their stealth systems making them almost invisible. The Council's sensors could barely track them. They're launching fighters, Emma reported. Deploy the ghost swarms, West ordered. Thousands of small black drones shot forward. But these weren't the same drones they'd used before. These were new, better. Ghost swarms are in their computer systems, Emma said with a smile. Their targeting computers are shutting down. Their shields are failing. The Council fleet tried to fight back, but they couldn't hit what they couldn't see. Their weapons fired blindly into space while human ships slipped past their lines. Alliance fleet, move in, West ordered. The alien ships that had joined humanity charged forward. They weren't as advanced as human ships, but they didn't need to be. They had human weapons and shields now, and they knew how to use them. Sir, Emma called out. They're trying to call for help from their colonies. Let them, West said calmly. Show them what's happening across their empire. Emma pressed a button. The screen showed images from across Council space. On world after world, slaves were rising up. Council forces were surrendering or running away. Their perfect empire was falling apart. Main fleet has broken through, Emma reported. We have a clear shot at the capital. West stood up. This was the moment they had planned for. All ships, form up. Prepare for planetary assault. The Council's capital was a massive city planet, covered in tall towers and defensive platforms. But those defenses were built to stop the weapons they knew. They had never faced anything like the human fleet. "Fire the gravity lances," West ordered. The human ships fired as one. Beams of twisted space-time struck the planet's shields. They didn't try to break through the shields. Instead, they turned the shields themselves into weapons. The defensive barrier collapsed inward, crushing the defense platforms. "Ground teams ready," Emma said. Special forces from Earth and the Alliance were already landing, slipping through gaps in the failing defenses. Leading them was Commander Tom Hayes, the same officer who had first discovered the Council's true nature. "This is Hayes." His voice came through clear. "We're inside the Council chambers. They're trying to run." West's voice was firm. "Not this time. No more running. No more hiding. The Council faces justice today." The battle lasted another hour, but the outcome was never in doubt. One by one, Council ships surrendered or were destroyed. Their leaders were captured trying to escape in hidden ships. "Send the broadcast," West ordered. Emma activated the special channel that reached every world in Council space. "Attention all beings. The Council has fallen. Their leaders are under arrest. Their empire is ended. To all slave worlds, you are free. To all Council forces, surrender or be destroyed. The age of tyranny is over." Cheers erupted across the bridge as reports came in. Across the galaxy, Council forces were laying down their arms. Slave worlds were declaring their independence. The empire that had lasted thousands of years had fallen in less than 2 months. West looked at his crew, saw the pride in their faces. "Send word to Earth. Tell them it's done. The Council is finished." Emma walked up beside him. "Sir, what happens now?" West smiled. "Now comes the hard part. Building something better. Making sure this never happens again." He looked out at the capital planet, where Alliance ships were already landing to help restore order. "The Council thought they were unbeatable because they were old," West said. "They forgot that new doesn't mean weak. Young doesn't mean foolish, and humanity." He paused, watching Council leaders being led away in chains. Humanity proved that sometimes the students can teach the teachers a thing or two. The age of the Council was over. The age of freedom had begun. 1 month after the Council's fall, Captain Laura Reed stood in the great hall of what had once been the Council's palace. The room had changed. Where there had once been thrones for Council leaders, now there was a round table. Where there had been chains for slaves to kneel, now there were comfortable chairs for equals to sit. "Are you ready?" asked Lieutenant Emma Cooper, who stood beside her. Emma had been promoted again for her work in the final battle. Laura nodded. "Time to build something better." Representatives from over 50 species filled the hall. Some were former slaves, others were former Council worlds that had surrendered. All were here to shape the galaxy's future. Admiral West stood at the center of the room. His uniform was crisp, but his eyes were tired. The past month had been busy, freeing slaves, arresting Council leaders, keeping order across thousands of worlds. "Welcome to the first meeting of the Galactic Federation," West began. "We're here to make sure nothing like the Council ever happens again." In a corner of the room, behind clear walls, the former Council leaders watched. They weren't allowed to speak, but they had to watch, had to see their empire of fear become something new. "The first order of business," West continued, "is justice." Laura stepped forward. She had been chosen to lead this part because she was the first human to meet the Council. "We've found proof of the Council's crimes," she said. "Millions enslaved, whole species wiped out, worlds stripped bare for resources. The Council leaders will face trial for these crimes." One of the alien representatives stood up. It was Torek, the blue-skinned captain who had first joined the Alliance. "What about their worlds?" he asked. "Their people? We don't want revenge. We want justice." "Agreed," Laura said. "Council worlds that surrendered peacefully will join the Federation as equals. Those who fought to the end will be watched carefully until they prove they can be trusted. Emma activated a large display showing the galaxy. Dots of light showed Federation worlds in green, former Council worlds in yellow, and free independent worlds in blue. Every world gets a choice, West explained. Join the Federation, stay independent, or form their own alliances. No one will be forced to join anything. Another alien stood up, this one with scales and feathers. But who will protect us? The Council kept order, even if they were cruel. Laura smiled. The Federation will have defenders, but not rulers. She pressed a button, showing images of the UES Prometheus and other human ships. Earth will help train and build ships for any world that wants them. We'll share our technology, teach others to defend themselves. And if someone tries to become the new Council, asked another alien, then they deal with all of us, West said firmly. The Federation's first law is simple. An attack on one member is an attack on all. We stand together. The meeting went on for hours. Rules were made. Laws were written. But most importantly, bridges were built. Species that had been enemies under the Council began talking, trading, helping each other. Later, Laura stood at a window watching ships come and go from the capital. Federation ships, trade ships, even some ships from worlds that hadn't joined yet but wanted to talk. Quite a change, Emma said, joining her. A month ago, this was the center of an empire. Now it's the heart of something new. Laura nodded. The Council thought power came from forcing others to obey. They never understood that real strength comes from working together. They watched as a group of former slave children played in a garden below. They weren't scared anymore. They were free to laugh, to play, to grow. Send a message to Earth, Laura told Emma. Tell them it's really over. The Council is finished, and something better is growing in its place. Admiral West walked up to join them. Not finished yet, he said. We still have a lot of work to do. Worlds to rebuild. Trust to build. But for the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy has hope. Laura smiled, watching the children play. That's the real victory. Not defeating the Council, but showing everyone a better way. The sun was setting on the capital world, painting the sky in beautiful colors. But it wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The start of a new age. An age where no species would rule over others. Where working together was stronger than standing alone. Humanity had done more than end the Council's rule. They had shown the galaxy how to be free. And that was the greatest victory of all.